What's up, everybody? CHM Carnivorous here. I hope you're having a wonderful day and a wonderful week. And more importantly, I hope you're having a wonderful start to the year 2024. Now, in today's video, I want to talk about, is your carnivorous plant dying? So I do run a forum on Facebook, and then I also am constantly reading other forums. And what I constantly see is this angst about carnivorous plants and if they are dying or not. So when it comes to other plants, people don't seem to be as protective of them, and I can understand why, being a lover of carnivorous plants myself. But there's a few misnomers out there about the finickiness of carnivorous plants and the hardiness of them that I want to dispel today. But then I also want to show you some examples of plants that have issues but that are not dying. They just need to be treated, or sometimes it's just okay. Carnivorous plants, just like any other plants, go through life cycles. They go through changes. Sometimes they're happy, sometimes they're not. But I want to try in this video to help remove some of that angst of whether or not you're on that knife's edge or whether or not that plant is going to die. Now, I'm going to talk about a few different carnivorous plant groups today. I'm going to talk about Nepenthes first, and then I'm going to talk about sundews, and then Venus flytraps last. I'll try to keep the video as short as possible for your time. But I do want to cover some of the heavy hitters. It's certainly not going to be an all-encompassing video. I might do a part 2 on that. But without further ado, let's get into the video and let's find out whether or not our plants are dying and what to expect. See you in a minute. First up, we're going to talk about Nepenthes. Before we get into that, let's dispel a few rumors. Nepenthes, I've been told since the beginning, and what kept me out of the carnivorous plant circle, if you will, for a long time was the fear of growing them because they are so finicky. Now, there are certainly finicky ones out there, like Cephalotus, Heliumphoria, can be more finicky than others, but things like Nepenthes are very, very hardy and very forgiving, especially when you're talking about hybrids. Now, you will experience things that you see online a lot of the time. People always tend to show their best plants, right? They want to put their best foot forward and they want to show you the greenest leaves, the nicest pictures. But I want to tell you now that that is just not reality, and you won't have that all the time with all your plants. So please don't be taken aback by that or pulled in the wrong direction, thinking, well, my leaves aren't always green, I must be doing something wrong, they must be dying. Plants are plants, whether it's carnivorous or not. And so let me turn the camera around and show you what I'm talking about and explain some of the things that you might be seeing that aren't necessarily causes of death and just part of the life cycle of a plant. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, and I see a lot of angst around this, especially with Nepenthes, are my leaves are drying up and browning. Does that mean the plant is dying? So short answer is no. It is a completely normal life cycle of the plant. These plants are, well, they'll produce these nice green, and as they grow out, they'll almost become a woody vine as they go. And you can see that happening here with this one. This is a truncata by Mira. And part of the things that they do is they just kill off their leaves as they don't need them because they want to hold on to their energy. Now you can see this one's producing pictures. It's doing just fine. Very healthy plant. And it is just going to kill off leaves. That's just part of the life cycle of a Nepenthes. And so if you see that, don't be concerned. That is just a normal function. Now let's look at another topic. So what I have here is a Nepenthes brutus, which I believe is truncata by Morelliana, or Morelliana by truncata. It's the opposite of the Nepenthes Caesar. Now, this plant has been this way since day one that I've got it. It looks like it is struggling, but it is not. Now, you will notice the reddening here. That is a sign that this plant is getting too much light. I probably will have to move it down, but it is certainly not a death sentence for the plant. Now, the reason why I know this is too much light and not a fungus is you can usually tell through the underside of the leaves if there's anything. I'll actually show you a plant that I do have, unfortunately, that's got a fungus that I'm treating. But this is not a death sentence for the plant. Now, if this was to get like just a ton of light and these leaves would go completely red, then we would be talking about a situation where I need to act fast. But this plant is healthy. These are not the green leaves that you're normally used to seeing. So you might think, oh my goodness, what's going on? Is this plant in trouble? And it is not. Now, it will get a little brittle on the parts that are red like that. Again, that is perfectly normal as a process. And all I have to do is simply move this down and it will do just fine. And as you can see here, leaves are dying off. And again, that is perfectly normal for the health of the plant. Let me show you a plant that does have a fungal issue that I'm trying to treat. That way you can know what to look for and how to treat it. So if you've watched this channel, you know this plant is one of my babies, and so this is a little disheartening, but as you can see how these leaves are starting to get this weird purple hue to it. Now look at this, keep that in mind, and then look at this plant. I'm going to put it over here. And so you can definitely see there's a difference between a fungus and a leaf burn in the coloration. Now, I am not concerned about this plant's survival. It will do just fine. But also look at the underside of the leaves. See how it's got this weird sort of thing? This plant definitely has a fungus. It is not the end of the world. It will not kill this plant. It would if I didn't treat it over time, but it would take quite a while. I'm going to go ahead and treat that with some neem oil. And this is what I use. And that plant will be just fine in probably 2 to 3 weeks if I apply it once or twice a week. And so again, these plants are incredibly hardy. This is a high humid environment, and so I am going to be more prone to fungus than the average grower would be, just because it's in such a closed space. If I pan around, you can see everything is just so tightly packed together. And so what that means, I constantly have a humidifier running, and so there's a constant high level of ambient humidity in the air, and that's why I have this experience. If you're not necessarily running a humidifier constantly, you're not going to have to deal with fungal issues as much as maybe I would. I'm okay with it. It's a chance I'm willing to take. I will treat it, and it will be just fine. Now, again, if you look at different people's collections, and when you're posting online, especially, right, you want to show those big, beautiful pictures, those beautiful leaves, like, you know, this leaf that's just perfect. Do not be discouraged by that if yours don't look like that. I can promise you the entire collection does not look like that. And it's human nature to put your best foot forward and show off the really good looking stuff. But part of this channel, right, is to educate and to teach. Like me, the quote unquote everyday grower who doesn't have all the tools to be able to have those state-of-the-art equipment, but you can still grow them. I don't want you to see that and freak out. Let's look over at another plant that actually got root rot, and so that is supposed to be the death nail for Nepenthes. But I'm going to show you that even with stem rot, how you can save your Nepenthes from what is supposed to be an absolute killer. All right, so what you're looking at here is a Nepenthes S. So it's an unnamed Nepenthes. It will produce humongous pictures. This is a basal growth. This thing had a main vine on it that was pretty large. That main vine got stem rot. And now I had always been told stem rot was a killer, and that was it, right? If you got stem rot, you might as well call it quits. But I was able to get a hold of a video where I showed how to treat it, and I created a video as well how to treat that. And so this plant is testimony to the fact that even if you get stem rot, which is like the killer of Nepenthes, they can still be saved. You just want to cut the stem down to below where the stem rot is, and so how you can tell that is by once you cut the inside tissue of the stem will go from brown to green. Once it hits green, you are in the clear. And if you have a basil, even better. Cut that main vine off, let your basil grow. This thing's been going on now for 3 or 4 months and is doing just fine, and I feel fully confident that it has been saved. So the next point, this one's a little hard to see, but my pictures are dying. Does that mean my plant is also dying? And the answer is unequivocally no. Nepenthes will hold on to their pitchers or produce pitchers based on what the needs they require. It takes a lot of energy to produce these pitchers and to keep these pitchers going. And so if they don't need them, if they've been overfed or if they've got the energy they need, they will kill off those pitchers. And sometimes they won't produce pitchers at all if they have what they need. This is a perfectly normal life cycle stage of a Nepenthes, and it is nothing to be frightened about. Your plant is just fine. As long as everything else looks healthy on it, you are in good shape there. And actually, these can be your friends. See how this plant still has a little green? Use those pitchers to drop in some Osmocote pellets that give them a little bit more kick for nutrients without it killing your other healthy pitchers. So I do want to show you, so this again, this is a Nepenthes IMA, and as you can see the leaves are yellow. Now this plant has always had yellow leaves, and that's just part of its genetic makeup, but I can start to see that they're getting a little yellow, a little bit more yellow than normal, and a little brittle. So what that's telling me is they're not getting the nutrients they need, and so what I will do is I will put a couple Osmocote pellets in there, in their pitchers, and this thing will bounce back right away. Again, Nepenthes and other carnivorous plants will tell you very quickly when they are not happy, and they will give you the option to treat them. Now there are some conditions like a stem rot that you have to act fast. In this case, you don't really have to act fast. I just need to give this thing some nutrients and it will bounce back and be just fine. So that was a whole bunch of really quick clips. I'm trying to keep it short for your time, but understand that Nepenthes, just like any other plant, have a mind of their own. They're a little quirky, and sometimes they just do funky things. Like you'll get very weird growing leaves and you'll get very weird growing pitchers. It's not always an indication that there's something wrong in the environment. A plant, just like anything else, is a living species, and so it's going to do things that are just a little bit weird sometimes. And sometimes it produces very small pitchers. It produces pitchers that are a sort of oddly shaped. It might produce a leaf that it just tried to, and it's like, meh, I give up. So there's a lot of things that can happen. Now, if your leaves are curling a little bit and you're seeing this consistently, it could be an ambient humidity condition. If your leaves aren't opening up all the way and you're seeing this time and time again, there's a good chance they're not having enough humidity to open up all the way. And the same thing with your pitchers. But if you're only seeing one-offs here and there could be a potential that there was a drop in humidity one day. It's not the end of the world. Your plant is going to be perfectly fine. So, I understand that's not an all-encompassing thing for Nepenthes. The list could go on and on and on forever. I'll probably make a part 2. But I want to move over now to the Drosera and the Diania, the Sundew, and the Venus flytrap, and sort of talk through some of those things you see there, because I see that a lot in the forums too. People get really nervous. Now the good news is sundews are probably the most hardy of all plants, as long as you're not talking about the Three Sisters of Queensland. But they are very, very, very forgiving plants. Venus flytrap is way more forgiving than people give it credit for. And out of all the plants, it's probably been villainized the most as being difficult. But it is something that I encourage everyone to have. And I even went out and bought some from a big box store that are very unhealthy. And I'm going to show you how you can bring those back. See you in a minute. So let's talk about Venus flytraps. Now, these are not healthy. I got a bunch of these I picked up from the local Lowe's, I think it was, and so a few weeks ago, and they are not doing well at all. And I'll explain how I know that by looking at them. You could probably figure it out. But Venus flytraps, for the most part, are going to want really long stems. Now, depending on the time of the year is a little different, right? So this time of the year, it'll either go into dormancy, or if you're like me and live in Florida, sometimes it'll go in dormancy, but most of the time it'll produce these very low lying sort of leaves that are very stunted in growth and hug the ground. They'll also do that when they're not healthy. So it could be a little bit of both, given the time of year that we are looking at. But these are not doing all that well. So you usually get these from big box stores in what's called death cubes, appropriately named because they don't have any of the conditions they need. And living in those cubes for any length of time will kill them. So what I've done here is I've got a 50-50 peat moss perlite mix that I put them in. Now the thing about Diania is they have extremely long roots, and they do want to be in water, but they don't want those roots waterlogged. So I've given it a nice big pot. I could take divisions off of some of these. I bought a bunch of them, so it's sort of all packed in here. But what I'm going to try to do over the next few weeks is just show how you can get them back. Now, these have been, again, the most villainized plants, probably all plants out there. And even these, in a bad condition they are, I am 99% confident that I will be able to bring back all of them and bring them back to health. They only need a few things, right? They need a good light, a good strong source of light. They need to be in water, and they need to be fed, and they will do just fine. These, for all intents and purposes, probably only had maybe a month, maybe 2 months left on them before they would die. But I'm going to bring these back from the death and show you that they can be easily grown. Venus flytraps get a bad rap, to say the least. They are extremely easy to grow. Once you understand the environment they need and provide that to them, they will grow leaps and bounds for you. And so hopefully I can prove that in the next few videos. Let's move on to sundews. Now, if you'll remember, about 3 weeks ago, I posted a video on my first sundew care video. And so I'm not going to take a lot of time explaining the care for sundews in this. That video is available if you want to watch it, and I'm going to be making more. But I do want to show you, if you look at that video, just how quickly these things bounce back. Now, admittedly, I have had these for a while, and I just did not give them anywhere close to the care they needed. And as a result, as you would expect, they became very, very unhappy and close to death. But I have been feeding them, and so little hint, I feed them fish flakes, and it's been doing great. I've been doing aggressive feeding with them once a week and sometimes twice a week, depending on, you know, just how they're looking, how things are going. And as you can see, they are flowering like crazy. The Nepenthes in the back are flowering like crazy. Now, Drosera, our sundews, are extremely forgiving plants, and so it does not take much for them to feel the love and start growing back. There are some concerns that people have that I've seen on the forums, and I want to dispel those concerns now. It is perfectly normal. I'm going to bring you over here to the Nepenthes. It is perfectly normal, just like with the Nepenthes, for their leaves to start turning brown, especially towards the bottom. Nepenthes in particular is sort of like a palm tree type of sundew, for lack of better terms, and so it will do just like the Nepenthes does, and as it grows, it will grow up and it will kill off the leaves at the bottom, turning them brown. This is not a sign of death. This is a sign of it's doing its natural life cycle. One thing you want to look for in unhealthy Drosera in general is, does it have the dew? If it doesn't have the dew, it's not getting enough light, and so it's not able to produce that. But even with them having no dew, they will still live. It's just not fun to have a sundew without any dew. So make sure you give them plenty of light. Now, these Drosera were very unhappy with me not even 3 weeks ago, and since I've been feeding them regularly, I've given them good light and given them the environment they need, they have been growing back in leaps and bounds, and it will not be long before this collection is double, tripled in size. That's the thing about sundews, is that if you give them too much love, they will really reciprocate and give you a ton of plants. So for me, that's a great thing, but some other collectors, maybe they don't necessarily want that to be taking over. But the biggest thing is here, of all the carnivorous plants out there, sundews are going to be the easiest to care for. Again, they need a 50-50 peat perlite mix. They have been grown in 50-50 sphagnum perlite, but I tend to like them in peat perlite. These are larger, so I have them in very tall pots because especially Nepenthes gets extremely long roots. They don't mind necessarily like a Venus flytrap to get their roots wet, but I don't like to do it for long periods of time. When they're small like this, you can keep them in smaller pots and they will be fine until you get ready to up pot them. For spatulata and any of the rosetted sundews, they have more of a very shallow root system, so they can be very close to the water line and do just fine. As a matter of fact, they prefer that. But overall, they will react very well to feedings with fish flakes once a week, and then giving them a really good light. I've got a Mars Hydro light in here. It cost me $60 on Amazon. It's a 600 series. It does fantastic. And in that 3 weeks time, it's already put out 1, 2, 3, 4 flower spikes, and I see maybe another 4 coming up. The spatulata is just producing flower spikes at an insane rate. And I want to show you something that's really important. So I've had these spatulatas for a while, but I had them in low light, and none of these flowers would ever come to fruition. They would always grow the stalk, and then the flower wouldn't actually produce. Now that I'm giving it light, as you can see, the flower has produced. And what that means is this will pollinate, these will turn brown, and there will be thousands of little sand-like seeds that come out of it. And so this whole tray will be filled in no time. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. It has been So I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's been quick. We've been hitting segments very fast. This is a topic that could go on for a long time, and there could be many videos being made that go more in depth, and I might consider doing that in the future. But what I wanted to do is provide you with a quick guide on those sort of heavy hitters that you will see with these different species, so that way you could tell right off the bat whether or not your plant was fine or not without doing a tremendous amount of reading or looking all these things up. Just something that you could reference very fast. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if there's a topic that you would like me to spend more time on and discuss further, please let me know in the comments. As always, thank you so much for your support. 2023 was amazing because of you, and I cannot wait to see what 2024 brings. Have a wonderful day, have a wonderful week, and a wonderful start to your new year.